Hey everybody, Jared Platt here for Profoto. We are on our next webinar, and today we're excited about doing some night photos. So you might have wondered why we didn't have like techno music going on leading up to this. That's because the music that you were listening to was written by Kevin Burdick, and he is our model for today. He's a musician, and so we thought we'd introduce you to some of his music. So you can get that on iTunes or Triple Scoop if you want to license it. And this is our model, Kevin Burdick. So I noticed that there was someone from Antarctica online right now. So it's night down there, I guess, all day long. So this will be great for you. Everything we do is night photography today. So it's very dark. Our cameras were on set and it was really dark. So just be aware that when you're watching these videos, it's dark. And so we're giving you as much information as we can from the videos. And then of course, we're going to be looking at those videos, talking about those videos, and showing you some diagrams and explaining how we did things. Just some housekeeping issues really quickly. For those of you who want to learn more about Profoto products, you can go to profoto.com/products. And then also, we'll be using the B1 heads today. And so if you want to look at that information, you can just go to /B1 and all the information there. And there's frequently asked questions there and things like that. So knock yourself out, go to profoto.com. So let's get right into it. Today, and by the way, if you want to ask questions, please do so in the chat window just down to the right of your screen. So ask questions in the chat, and our wonderful Profoto experts over in Sweden are taking your questions and they're sending them to us, and we will answer them intermittently throughout the webinar. Okay. So we're going to start off by showing you a video of a shoot that we did downtown Chandler, Arizona. We are in the middle of the city. We've got some street lights that are coming down on us, but for the most part, in order to get a good shot of those street lights, to burn those in, we're a pretty slow shutter speed, so you'll notice that we're using a tripod. And of course, the lights are on the camera, and it's very dark. So just listen in, watch this, and I may make some comments on the way. And then as soon as we're done with the video, we'll kind of go over what we did. But before we play the video, I wanted to show you just kind of the basic setup so you get an idea, because it's dark, so it's a little hard to see where the lights are. So if you look at when we look at this first video, we have our model here, Kevin Burdick. The camera is here, and there's a big building in the background, and you'll see it. It's all lit up. It was that first shot that we just showed on the intro here. And then there's some street lights over here, and those street lights, when we start burning in, we're going to be at 1/10 of a second during this shot. And so I'm on a tripod here with the camera. So these street lights add a little bit of light onto Kevin, a lot of light back here on the buildings themselves. But we followed the rule of two lights on this because Profoto just introduced the B1 kit, and it comes with a backpack, and we'll show you that kit in a minute, but it comes with a backpack, it comes with a charger, it comes with 2 heads. It's a great little kit. You can throw it on your back and take it wherever you're going, and so we wanted to just use that kit. So what we have is a softbox over here, kind of as the front light, and then we have a bare head B1 as a rim light or a hair light to kind of separate them from the backdrop. So let's go ahead and play that, and then we'll answer some questions about it, and we will talk about it afterwards. So go ahead and play that, Matt. Here we are in Chandler, Arizona. We're going to do a little photo shoot on the street. We've got our new Profoto kit on the back and camera. Got the crew here, and we're going to be using this building here as our background, and Profoto lights are going to be our light source to light up our model. It is Kevin Burdick sitting over here at the bus stop waiting for a bus. So let's get to it. All right, we're here on our first shot. basically what we're going to do is we're going to build this shot out. The first thing that we have to do is get the ambient exposure for the shot. So we're going to have to slow down the shutter. We're going to raise the ISO up a bit so that we can get that building in, because it's kind of dimly lit, but it's an interesting color. So we're going to get that burned in, but we're going to have to use a slow shutter speed. So I'm going to be at 1/10 of a second, which means that Kevin has to hold still. I'm on a tripod. I'm even using a shutter release cable to make sure that I'm perfectly still, that he's going to stand as perfectly still as he can. And I'm going to shoot this without the flashes first so you can see what we get. And then once we've shot without the flashes, we're going to add a softbox here. We can see that we have the softbox. This is a Profoto RFI. It's a 2x3 softbox. And we don't have a grid on it right now. So that's going to softly light his face, and then we're going to add, after that, we're going to add a rim light for him in the back to kind of separate him from the darkness, because you can see that we're shooting, and we're going to put the colorful part of the building on the left-hand side as kind of this vacancy, and on the right-hand side we're going to see a little bit of that staircase kind of in the dark, and he's going to kind of fall into that. So let's take the first shot without anything. Kevin, can you look right off here? Super freeze, 3, 2, 1. There we go. So you can see that when we get the shot, it's too dark. So he's really dark. It's not going to be a good portrait, but it looks nice on the actual building itself. So we like the burn that we've done there. I could get a little bit more burn out of it, but then I'm really pushing it on the slowness of that shutter speed. So I would rather pull that up if I need to in Lightroom, and I have plenty of data there. So now we're going to add the softbox in the front, just as the fill light for him. So let's do that here on our Air remote. So my softbox is on A, group A, and my hair light is group B. So all I need to do is come over here and click. That's a fast car. All I need to do is come here and click on A, and then I'm going to go to the A group, and I'm just going to turn the head on. I push this head button, and now it's on, and it's all in TTL mode, so we haven't done anything yet to choose our actual lighting scenario for the flashes. It's going to choose it for us, and we're going to shoot just on TTL and see what it gives us. So Kevin, can you look off here again? 3, 2, 1, good. So if we look at this, if we look at our shot, that's really, really well exposed. So I'm happy with the way it is. But you can see that the shoulder there, he's got these leather patches on his shoulder. They kind of fade into the darkness in the background. So now what we want to do is we want to separate out Kevin from the background. So in order to do that, we're going to add that second head, which is on group B. So we just need to push the group B button, and then I'm going to turn that head on, and we're going to fire that one away and see what we get. So I'm going to hit 3, 2, 1. Good. I'm going to one more. 3, 2, 1. Good. Perfect. And you can see now that it's kind of lighting him on the shoulder, and you're getting a nice rim light on that leather patch so that you can see that it's different from the background. But I kind of want it to be a little bit more intense. I like the background light. I like that rim light to be a little bit stronger, usually about a stop stronger than the front light or the main light. So always my strong light is on the back coming forward, and then my weaker light is the main light. So in order to do that, we're going to use on the Air remote, we're going to use what's called a ratio. So once you start getting two different groups of B1 heads together, you can actually tell the TTL which group is going to be stronger, which is going to be weaker, and by how much. So we're going to go back to the B group, and we're going to increase that head's power by 1 stop. So I'm just going to hold the plus energy button down, and it's going to increase by 1 stop. If I were to push it in incremental, just one push, it would do it by 1/10 of a stop. But instead, I'm going to do it by I'm going to hold it down, and that's going to move it up 1 full stop. And now we're going to take the picture again, and I think this is going to be the one, Kevin. 3, 2, 1. Good. Let's take a look at that. We brought the computer out so that we can really check the file. And the one thing that we're going to notice is that there probably is going to be a little bit too much movement because of the forward light here that we have from the cameras. So when we want to take the final shot, we're actually going to ask the cameras to turn off their lights and take one shot. So hang on, let's take a look at it. I like the way the light is falling, and it's just, you can see the slightest hint of movement in it. So I'm going to ask the cameras to turn off their lights, and we're going to take the last shot. So Kevin, this is where you're really going to shine. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Good. And again, 3, 2, 1. And look up a little bit more, and maybe a little bit closer. There you go, right there. Good. And now really to the side. 3, 2, 1. Good. Let me check one of those and see what we've got. It's perfect. All right. So that's shot 1. And what we did is we started with a burn-in of the building, and then we went to the softbox, and that lit him. You can see that the softbox is kind of at an angle there. That helps to kind of push the light around the other side of his nose and create that Rembrandt lighting. And then the bulk of that light is over on the right-hand side. And then at the back on the right-hand side is our hair light. But you'll notice that I'm still following my general rule of wrapping the light around from one side. So we start over here and we continue the light forward so it looks very natural. And that's shot 1. Good job, Kevin. Okay, so that was our longest video because we had a lot of explanations going on in there, but you notice that we used ratios on there. We were completely in TTL mode. Obviously our camera was manual, and that's important, but we were burning, so I was on a tripod. Now, I mentioned when we were talking there about tilting the softbox, and I do that a lot. I take a softbox, and instead of doing it as a vertical or doing it as a horizontal, I'll tilt it like this so that I'm getting a very small amount of light that's wrapping around the front side of the face, and the bulk of the light is actually on the back side of the face so that I get more of a forward light. So it's kind of a short light situation. And then this little tiny corner here helps to wrap around the nose and get a little bit more light over there. If I went like this, you'd get a lot more light because this whole portion of the softbox is wrapping around. So you'll notice I do that a lot. I tilt my softbox at an angle like that. So that's just an idea for you when you're lighting with a softbox. So with the TTL, we didn't have to do any kind of computations on the flash themselves. We're going to do some manual work later on at the end of the webinar, but that was all TTL, and it's just a matter of allowing them to do the work and then changing the ratios based on which light we want to be stronger. So I'm going to look and see if there's any questions here. We do have a question about how did I choose 1/10 of a second shutter speed for the background. Camera meter or just a hand meter. So what I did when I come in to any scene, the very first thing that I do is check the ambient light. And I've gotten to the point where I can kind of guesstimate the light, and then with the camera I can just look at the histogram and see if I got it right. But when I first came in there, I knew that it had to be a slower shutter speed than, say, 1/30th of a second. And I knew that it had to be at a higher ISO. So I just guesstimated at 800 ISO. I knew that I had to have a very specific f-stop number so that I could have the right depth of field. And so after that, it was just a matter of choosing that shutter speed. And I think I probably guesstimated a little bit longer, and then I pulled it back to 1/10 of a second. So it was a matter of kind of finagling between ISO and the shutter speed, because I knew the f-stop had to be exactly, and in this case it was 5.6 because I wanted to have enough depth of field to get Kevin really sharp. But I guesstimated on those two other things, and then it's a matter of playing between the two. Sometimes I'll go a little bit higher on the ISO if I need to, but in this case 1/10 of a second was enough that he wasn't going to move too much during the exposure if he stayed still. The flash is what's freezing him in the mostly, but you notice that there's still, look at this shot on my screen. You'll notice this green light area right here on his shoulder. All of that light is coming from these street lights here. So that light is coming forward and burning his shoulder. And so it's really important that I don't let him move too much. So if I'd gone down to, say, a second, I could have really made the building nice and bright, but I would have ended up with him moving too much. The flash wouldn't have frozen him enough, and I would have gotten kind of a double edge to him. So that's how I came up with it. But in most cases, I'm just guesstimating, and I'm just using the camera as the meter. I don't like carrying another meter around with me, so I do a lot of guessing. Okay. All right, so the next thing that we're going to go over then is we have two soft boxes that we're going to use. So we actually brought in two 2x3 soft boxes. We're going to use them side by side, equidistant from the camera, both tilted. And my camera's right in the center, and then we're going to evenly light Kevin, because a lot of times the stuff we did the first shot is a little dramatic, and so we want to evenly light them and soft light them. So we're going to do that with two soft boxes. Matt, do you want to go ahead and play that, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the setup. All right, we're in shot 3. Up to now, we've done some dramatic lighting. We've used a lot of lights in the background coming forward to create rim lights and hair lights. But now we're going to do something that you might use on a woman. Not that Kevin is a woman, but if you want some soft, pleasing lighting that's a little bit more milquetoast, you can certainly get a beautiful light out of this. So what we've done is we've put a softbox on both of our flashes. We're sending them forward. You're going to see that when I take this shot with both of these flashes equally lit, so on TTL, both flashes at the same power are going to light him very flat, and it's going to be pretty blah. And then we're going to change the lighting so that this one is a little weaker, this one's a little stronger, and we're still going to do that all in TTL, and that's going to give us a nice shape to his face, but still very soft. So let's do that. So our first shot, Kevin, if you just want to look into the lens here. And we're going to turn off the modeling light because, again, we're shooting at a fairly slow shutter speed to allow the background to burn in. So I'm going to turn off the modeling light, and then I'm going to fire. And here we go. Kevin, look right in the lens. 3, 2, 1. Again, 3, 2, 1. Good. Perfect. All right, so you can see now that it's a completely flat shot. Not super pleasing because there's no, I might as well have a flash on the top of my camera. It's very soft, but it's very flat. So now what we're going to do is we're going to change the lighting scenario so that there's almost about 2 stops or so of difference between one side and the other. Because Kevin is facing this way, his body is facing this way, his face is facing this way, I'm going to make the weaker light in the front, and this light that's kind of getting the back side of his face, the side that's facing away from the camera a little bit more, that's going to be the stronger light. So we're going to take the B group and we're going to bring that up about 1/3 a stop, and then we're going to take the A group and we're going to take that down an entire stop and 1/3. So this is down a stop and 1/3, and this is up by 1/3 stop. So there's going to almost be 2 stops of difference between the two. And now, Kevin, if you look into the lens, 3, 2, 1, you can see that there's a lot more shape to the shot. However, it's still a little bit bright in comparison to our background. Remember, the TTL is trying to figure this out all on its own, and it's done a pretty good job, but it's still a little off. And so we want to take the entire exposure of the flash down just about a stop. So I'm going to do that by using the camera itself. I'm going to go to the flash compensation and push the flash compensation down 1 full stop, and then we're going to shoot the entire shot. All right, Kevin, if you'll look at me, 3, 2, 1, good. Beautiful. So we've now got the right exposure, but we used our ratios to get our light right so that we had the right sculpting, and then we use the actual flash compensation on the camera to lower the exposure of the flash in comparison to the background. Now, if we could get the camera lights off, we're going to do a series of interesting shots of Kevin just making a goof of himself. Ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1, and again, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so you notice then, and here's the diagram of what we were doing. The most important thing is choosing which light is going to be the strong light and which is going to be the weak light. And always I'm putting that strong light on the back side. So you can see here, the camera's facing here. He's angling off to the camera, to the left of the camera, which means that I'm seeing the front side of of his left, and the back side of his face is the right. And so I'm going to put the strong light, the plus 0.3, over on the right hand side, and that's going to short light him. If I were to turn the other one off, you would have a really dramatic look coming from this one. But then adding this flash to it at a negative 1.3, it just helps to fill it in a little bit. It's like using a reflector, but a nicely lit. I mean, it's a lot of reflection back. So this is a nice way to get a really soft look on with two flashes. But if you don't change the power on them, you're going to end up with way too flat a light. The other thing that you should notice about that shot is that because the flashes are so close together and they're kind of tilted, they're actually wrapping each other. So you've got light from the right flash wrapping over to the left side of the face, and light from the left flash wrapping over to the right side of the face. So it's a very soft look as opposed to just using one flash with a reflector or a whiteboard or something like that. So that's the second thing. Now again, notice that we were at 1/10 of a second. We're still at 5.6 because I wanted that sharpness on him, and we're still at ISO 800. Now we're going to go to a butterfly, and I just wanted to show you this as an extra. It's basically, we had two flashes in the last example. We had two flashes like this on either side of the camera. But now we're going to do something a little bit more interesting to make a huge softbox that you can kind of sit in the middle of. So go ahead and play that video. So we just wanted to do one extra little bonus shot here. And basically what we've done is we've taken our two soft boxes, instead of side by side, we've put them top and bottom, basically a butterfly, but instead of doing it straight on, so it's very flat light, you'll notice that I've got the two lights off to the right so that it's going to create a little bit more of a shape to him. It's going to, obviously it's making a very big softbox that we're shooting through, almost like we're in the middle of the softbox. But instead of being right in the middle shooting straight on, we're off to the side just a little bit in the corner, and that's going to allow us to have a nice wrap around his face and give us a lot of volume in his face. So you might be asking yourself, why wouldn't I just use one huge softbox? The difference is this. Number one, I'm in the middle of the softbox, so I can shoot right in the middle of the softbox. Number two, I can control the ratio between the top of the softbox and the bottom of the softbox. So I can get a nice downward light source with a little bit of fill in the bottom. So those are two of the big reasons. The other reason is they're not quite so unruly and huge, and it's a little easier to manage the two of them than one huge softbox blowing in the wind. So there's a lot of advantages to this, and it creates a beautiful light source. The top light, it's all on TTL. The camera is set to -1 flash compensation. The top light is full TTL power, and the bottom light is -1 stop, so that we still get a little bit of downward shadow on him. And that's all we've done, and we're going to just get the portrait. It creates a very pleasing, very soft light. It's a great solution for a very soft, beautiful portrait. All right, here we go. Kevin, right in the camera. Oh, and I'm going to turn off the modeling light because we are still burning in the background. Okay, we're going to start shooting, so if we could have the cameras turn off their lights. And 3, and 3, 2, 1. All right, that's great. Thanks, Kevin. Beautiful shoot. So you can see that we have that nice downward light by having the ratios, one stop difference between the two of those lights. We've got a nice natural light fall. And the thing is whenever you're lighting something, regardless of what you're lighting, it's important to light it in a way that's natural. And that's the reason an on-camera flash is so ugly, because the only people that see light that way is like people who are in a coal mine and they've got the light, you know, on their head and everything they see is forward light. So that's the only people that would ever see something that way. And so it's important to follow the natural light. So usually light comes from the top down or from a window over. And so if we light from the side or we light from the top and we have that strength of light coming this way or down, then we'll have a much more natural light. And generally speaking, I try very hard to make sure that the light looks fairly natural and follows the general lighting conditions that are there already. In this case, we were again, we were at 1/10 of a second, so we had a slow shutter speed, which meant we had to have that thing on a tripod. So anytime we're shooting at night, if I'm not shooting at a super high ISO, we have to lock that camera down on a tripod. So we did also one other in the same circumstance, and I just got a question on the feed. Someone asked if we needed a permit to shoot on the street. We didn't get a permit to shoot on the street. We figured, whatever. We're not in California. We're in Arizona. We're in Chandler. It's all good. If a cop had come over and talked to us, we would have, you know, mea culpa, sorry, and then we would have moved somewhere else and taken some more pictures. So, all right. The next one I want to show you is actually two bare heads. So we wanted to do a shot with just two bare heads because it's easy to cart those around without a softbox or a reflector or anything like that. So let's play that. I want to show you this because it's a challenging shot, and it's hard to do two bare heads on location at night because you would really actually want a third light. But we found a way to deal with it, and that is by using a reflector. So this is a white and silver reflector. It's a large. So we use this on the silver side to reflect the light back. So go ahead and play that video and you'll see how we solved the problem of not having the forward light because we wanted two rim lights. All right, so shot number 2, we have Kevin sitting on a bench here. We're going to get the same general background, doing something with a little angle and something, he's leaning into us, but we've changed our lights. So I'm going to show you where those are. But because we don't have a softbox on them or anything, I'm going to turn on the modeling head so you can see where the lights are. I'm just going to do that from the air remote here. Just select it and turn on the modeling, select the group, turn on the modeling lights, and that so you can see where our lights are. We've got the one on the right here is group B, and the one on the left is group A, so that I can independently change them. But we've got our background, we're burning in. We've actually changed it just a little bit, but not much. We're still running on a slow shutter speed, so we have to have Kevin hold pretty still. And then our flashes are going to be separating him out from the background and doing something really dramatic. We're gonna have rim light all the way around him. But because we're following our rule of only 2 lights, basically what we can get in our kit, we are going to use the 2 lights in the back, and we're going to reflect back all the excess light that's passing Kevin back into his face as our main light source for him. So you can see that this light, number B over here on the right hand side, is angled just at the right angle to come and hit our silver reflector. And so this is the Profoto. It's a large silver and white. We're using the silver side so we can reflect as much light back to Kevin as we can. So all the light that's passing by Kevin is hitting the silver reflector, bouncing back to him, and that becomes our main light source. I'm going to show you the shot without the reflector, and then I'm going to show you with the reflector so you can see that we get this rim light. So Andrew, you want to step away for a second, and Kevin, hop into your position, and we're going to take a shot here. 3, 2, 1, good. So you can see that it's a very, very dramatic shot when we just shoot it without the reflector. Now when we put the reflector in, it's going to fill him in, It's going to give him some catch lights in the eyes and make things just a little softer on him. All right, ready, Kevin? 3, 2, 1. Good. And again, 3, 2, 1. Excellent. We'll take a look at the shot. Make sure that we're sharp because we are dragging the shutter quite a bit to make sure that that building burns in. But I like the shot. It's very dramatic. It's moody and interesting, but there it is. Okay, so let's go to the Lightroom screen here for a second because I really wanted to discuss the difference between the two shots. You really can see a huge difference between these two shots with that reflector. You see on the left-hand side, you have that nose shadow going on, but on the right-hand side, it's filled in. So that reflector is softening up the drama of the shot. It's still a very dramatic shot, but the key here is, and if you look at our little diagram here, the key to this shot is that our two strong lights are behind to separate him from that background. And generally, when you're dealing with a dark background like that, you really need something to come forward and separate him from the background. Unless they're blonde, then sometimes you don't necessarily need that, but still, it always looks better to have something separate them from the background. So these two are very strong lights and they're creating all that drama, but my general rule of thumb is to always have the forward light be weak anyway. So having that silver reflector right here allows that light to come forward and it becomes the weak light because there's not as much light coming back. And depending on how far away you put this reflector, that's going to change how much light bounces back, and you can make this more dramatic by moving this reflector back, or you can make it less dramatic by moving it forward. Now we were using the silver side of the reflector, which the reason we were using the silver side is because it reflects a lot of light back. But you could turn it to the white side and get it nice and close, and you'd have a much more soft light, but it would still be very dramatic because it wouldn't be reflecting as much light back. And so that's the situation that we found ourselves in there. But the other thing that I wanted to note on this shot, if you go to the main shot again, look at the light behind. Now, we had some people commenting on the chat room about whether or not they like the street light in the photograph. And I love having street lights in the photograph, especially when I can mimic the light. Notice that the street light, it's glaring at me, but that looks like what's lighting his head. But what's lighting his head is actually the Profoto B1 head over to the left is what's creating that light. But it looks like the street lights are doing that. So anytime I can create a situation where it looks like some natural light source or some existing light source is what's actually creating the light, but then I'm controlling how it's falling and how bright it is, that's a win for me. I love doing that. And so speaking of that, we're going to go to the most complicated shot that we did, and I love this shot, so I'm excited to show it to you. So we're going to show you the video first. Actually, I'm going to show you the photo first so that you can start guessing how we did it, and then we'll show you the video. So here we go. The shot is out in an open field. And go to the shot itself here. Let me turn to it first. There we go. All right. So this is the shot. And I love the shot. I think it's fantastic. And so I enjoyed shooting the shot. We're going to show you how we made that shot, and it's done in 2 steps. So follow the steps, and then when we get back, we'll talk more intensely about it. And remember that you can ask questions down in the right-hand corner there, so go ahead and ask questions as you have them on the chat. So we've left the city for our final shot, and now we're out in farmland country. And we've got a big water tower behind us. We've got the moon shining down on us, and we want to get a really dramatic shot, burning in the sky a little bit, but that requires us to take a 30-second exposure. I don't want Kevin sitting around in that exposure. He's going to move too much. So we're going to do this in 2 parts. The first part, I'm going to be taking a 30-second exposure at f8 ISO 100, and that's going to give me the sky that I want. The moon's going to look great. But the water tower is not going to look so great. It's a little too dark, so we're going to fill it in with a little flash. So I've got my air remote here in manual mode. we're going to start the 30-second exposure, and I have to run down about 200 yards down that way, and that light is going, one of my Profoto B1 heads is going to be flashing up on that water tower. Once we get that shot, we'll come back, we'll throw Kevin in, and we'll finish it up. So the air remote doesn't actually reach 200 yards, so that's why I had to run down there. And there's about 40 flashes full power going on during the 30-second exposure. So it's full power. How does it look? 40 of them. Oh, that's cool. An airplane just flew through, so it's got a strange wisp in it. That was wild. Well, you can't plan that, can you? Okay, we're on part 2 of the shot. We have Kevin in place for his portrait. He's lit by a 2x3 softbox, and then he has a backlight on him that's gonna pretend to be the moon, and it's basically just a bare head coming down as high as it can be. So we have our C-stand as high as it can possibly go, coming down and trying to match the position of the moon when we shot the shot, so that it feels like the moon is coming down and lighting him from behind. Because we're not shooting this as a long exposure anymore. The prior shot was 30 seconds. This shot is only going to be a 60th of a second. It's still at f8. It's still at 100 ISO. So we're going to now add Kevin in with just a normal portrait shoot with a front light that's on a softbox, a back light that's a bare head. All right, Kevin, you ready? Let's do it. All right, you got your spot? Here we go. All right, and just give me a little shifting as you go. Yeah, there you go, good. I think we got it, that's awesome. Good job, Kevin.
Thanks.
Perfect, that's it, got it. So all we gotta do now is just sandwich the two together really quick in Photoshop and we're done. Okay. So you can see how we shot the shot, but here's the diagram so that you get a really good, because it's so dark out there. There's no street lights on us. And the lights that you saw in the background, those were all for like a local ballpark. And so that's the only light that we had. And then of course the moon, which was nice that we had a full moon. So here's our lighting scenario here. Here's Kevin. This is either a rocket ship or the water tower, whichever one you want to call it. And then you'll see that there's a moon up here, and I put a little rabbit in it so that you didn't think it was the sun. It's the moon. See, it's got a rabbit. So there's the rabbit and the moon. And so in our 30-second exposure, the moon is kind of rim lighting here, and it's rim lighting him here, and that's about it. And then, of course, we've got all those speckled lights out there. And so that's the 30-second exposure. And it's a good exposure. I like the way it looks. But obviously, he can't stand there for 30 seconds. Even if you were to freeze him with the flash, the movement that would occur over 30 seconds would be so incredibly crazy that you would just have a soft edge to everything. So he can't hold that. So that's why we're doing it in 2 shots. But during the first shot, I moved this flash. So this flash right here that was going to be lighting him as a hair light, the first job for this flash is during the 30-second exposure, we move it about 200 yards down the hill, and we're actually coming from the back side where the moon would be lighting this water tower. We're trying to light it up as well. Because if you go to the original shot, just go to my screen here. Okay, so this is the original shot, and you can see that you can't see the posts on the water tower. The water tower is not really all that bright, but I like the mood of the sky, and I like the way the moon looks, and so I didn't want to go any further than that, but I need to somehow get that water tower to separate out a little bit. And so that's why on the 30-second exposure, then we get it to look more like this, because we have taken the flash and we've pounded 40 full power flashes up into that. And it's only 30 seconds. That means we're doing more than 1 flash per second. And I'm just banging away on that. Boom, 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 the whole 30 seconds. And I think I got about 40 of them in there. So it's a lot of light getting, but it helps to separate. Go back to that shot. You can see how it helps to separate out the water tower, so you can actually see the legs, you can see the water tower itself. And then I went in Lightroom, I went in and just dodged out a little bit up here in the top of the water tower, right where that light is. I wanted to see that a little bit better, so I dodged that out a little bit because I had no way of creating a light on top of the water tower, so I kind of had to accomplish that inside of Lightroom, doing a little dodging. Okay, so now that I've got my water tower lit, then I can bring this flash back up and put it in the position of the moon. And the key was to look through the camera and see where the moon was, and then hoist that light all the way up so that it was as close to the moon as it could possibly be in the shot. So I'm going to show you the shot of Kevin here. So let's see, there we go. So there's the shot with Kevin, and you can see the little speck of light off to the right of that flash is the moon. So that's where the moon is now. But the moon moves really fast. It just books through the sky. And so at one point it was right behind that. And in about 5 minutes it moved off to where it was. And so probably during the time that I was talking to you on camera, the moon moved from where it was supposed to be behind the flash to just off to the right, which is fine because we're not going to be using that flash anyway. We're going to be using the moon's actual natural light coming from there. But you can see in this shot now, going back to the diagram, you can see that we have this light is pretending to be the moon, because the moon is now just a speck of light because we're not burning in the sky for 30 seconds. And so this becomes the moon and gives us that glaring light, and even puts some of the light on Kevin's shoulder, some of those glares coming through the lens. And then of course here we have the softbox, and again this is just a 2x3 softbox, so it's not a huge softbox, and that's a little bit high and coming down on Kevin from his left going to the right, and so that gives us that dramatic light but nice soft. And we're not using a grid on any of these things. I really prefer not using a grid. Some people love that directional light that a grid will give you on a softbox, but I really like the softness of it, so I generally don't use a grid. So you can see the settings here for the portrait shot are 1/60th of a second, but the settings for the burn of the sky is a 30th of a second. So that's how we got the shot. Let me see if we have any questions about that shot. I'm sorry, not a 30th of a second, 30 seconds. It was 30 seconds, not a 30th of a second. Thank you. Okay, so I've got a couple questions here, and so I'm gonna answer a couple of these questions before I move on to show you what we did inside of Photoshop to merge the two, because I'm sure that you're concerned about how to get that done. And it's quite easy, actually. Okay, so, what camera and lens combo do you prefer? During these shots, the first shots that we shot in the city, I was shooting with a 70-200 IS 2.8 Mark II lens on the Canon. And I love the Mark III camera. So I shoot with the Mark III, and then I also shoot with a 24-70, a 50, a 35, all the L series lenses. But in this case, we were shooting with the 24-70. We wanted as wide as we could get because we had to be able to get the moon in, we had to be able to get Kevin in, and the water tower. So it needed to be a nice wide shot, so 24 millimeters. And that's as wide as I have. I don't have anything wider than 24 millimeter. So I just don't like wide shots all that much. I'm more of a long shooter. I prefer shooting at 70 millimeters or above. So anyway, that's that. Okay, so let's talk about how we get these photos into to merge them together. So the first thing that you do that we did is we went into Lightroom and we chose the ambient exposure that we wanted. So that's our ambient exposure that we want to use. And then we went and found the shot of Kevin that we wanted to use. And of course you can see that we've got a pull in there that needs to be removed, and so does the light source up there. So all that needs to be removed, but we just need to sandwich Kevin on top of the ambient exposure. So I can just simply command click both of those files. So I'm looking at the two files that I have chosen that are going to be my shots, and then I'm going to right click them, and I'm going to I'm going to edit them in, and I'm going to open them as layers in Photoshop. So as I open them in layers, it's literally just going to sandwich those two layers into Photoshop so that I don't have to pull in two separate files. It's making the one file for me. So let's wait for it to open here. There we go. Okay, so now we have two layers in Photoshop. We have Kevin on the top layer, and then we have the bottom layer is the actually the top layer is this one. The bottom layer is Kevin. So I'm going to grab the top layer and move it to the bottom. So now Kevin is the top layer. I'm going to click on the top layer, and this is the fastest way to get Kevin cut out of the darkness there. Just simply go up to the layer type up here. So we're going to the, let me zoom in here. You can see layer type. Click on normal, and I'm going to go to lighten. And there we go. So most of our cutout is done now simply by changing that layer style to lighten. You can see that there are some issues down here in his pants. See, his pants, it's dark here, or trousers for those of you who are not in America. So his trousers down here, the light is lighter back here, so it's coming through the darkness there. But it gives us a nice, this is where it really helps. See that? So we've got that nice cutout of his hair without having to do any work. Then all I need to do after that is go back to the layer, copy Kevin's layer like this, and this one we're going to change from lighten back to normal, and then I'm going to create a mask. And if you hold down the Option key while you click on that mask, you get a black mask. And then it's just a matter of going in and painting in the areas where my immediate lighten layer didn't do the trick. So I can just simply click on this mask, go to the brush, paint it 100%, and I'm going to paint white here onto the mask. And so I just need to paint in the areas that were not so successful, and that's it. That's the bulk of how we do it. Now I want to get rid of this pull, so I can, oops. So in this case, I want the pull to be gone, so I can highlight both of these and click right up here and create a new group from the layers. So now that group can also have its own mask. Oops, sorry. I just want to do a regular mask, and I can paint black, and anything I want to get rid of in this layer I can just get rid of with the brush. So I'm going to go in here. See how I'm getting rid of the light pull, and I'm creating there. So now all the light that's coming down on Kevin is actually from the moon itself. So I got rid of the pull, I got rid of the light source, and now I've got true moonlight. But notice that I didn't get rid of, if you look right here, that glare is coming from my flash, not coming from the moon. This is the actual moon. This is glare from the flash, but I'm leaving it because I like the way it's kind of riding in on him like that. There are a couple other things that I did to the final file. For instance, down here in this bottom corner, right below the water tower, if you zoom in here, there's some kind of event going on over there, and I don't know what that is. It's some kind of light source. I don't know what's going on, but it looks like Close Encounters or something like that going on. And so I liked it, so I copied that and pasted it over here. So when we go to the final shot, you'll see that I've added, see that? I added that little weird, this event, I changed the size of it and made it look like a little cloud coming across. And so it just, because that side was fairly vacant, so I wanted something over there to just kind of add some kind of interest to it. And so I just simply copied that over and pasted it, and that's all I did to that. So that's the shot. Very easy to create, just a matter of first lighting the background, getting the ambient shot the way you want it. Once you have the ambient shot the way you want it, then it's just a matter of posing the person. Keep that camera locked down so that you don't have to do a lot of work in post. That's the key, is you don't want to do that work in post. You don't want to have to like move them and size them. And I don't even, you notice that I focused on Kevin. So I put Kevin in the shot, I focused on him, then I moved him out of the shot, then I shot the ambient shot. That way, the ambient shot already had the blur from the lens that would naturally be there if I was focused on where Kevin was going to be. If you think ahead when you're shooting those kind of shots, the post is nothing. It's very easy to put them together. Okay, so let's look at some questions throughout. I hope you enjoyed that. I love that shot. I think it's a cool shot, and Kevin looks pretty suave in it, so I'm excited about it. So let's go to some questions here throughout. We've got one question that came up was, what is remember when we were shooting some of these earlier shots, like for instance this one, we left it in black and white. So it was shot in color obviously, but as it came in we changed it to black and white. The reason that we changed it to black and white is I didn't really like the color that I was getting as a result of the harsh light that comes from the silver side of the reflector. It was reflecting a lot of light forward on him, and his face wasn't looking the way I wanted it to look. And it wasn't an issue of the color of the lights themselves. It was just an issue of the way the light was reflecting off his face, and it was a little bit too magenta and warm. But I'm gonna show you what this looks like in color, just so that you can see. So I'm gonna turn this back to color, and you can see in the color shot, I just wasn't thrilled with the tone of his face. But besides that, once I turned it to black and white, and I just turned it to black and white to see what it looked like, and I really liked it. I liked all the shapes. It became more about shapes, less about color. And I think a lot of the times we have to make a good decision when we're shooting a shot. Is it a color shot? Is it a black and white? And a lot of people ask me, how do you choose that? How do you choose between a black and white and a color? And the answer is very simple. If the shot is, if the color adds to the shot and makes the shot better, then it's about color, and keep the color. But if the color takes away from the shot and you look at the color and it's distracting you, so either the color is pulling you away from the main subject or the main subject's color is bothering you, then it needs to go away so that it doesn't become a distraction to the shot itself. And the third reason to turn something to black and white versus color is it about shapes? If it's about shapes, to go back to the image, if it's about shapes, then it's black and white. Black and white does the best job at describing shapes and creating shadows and textures and things like that. It does such a good job at it. So that's why we turned it to black and white. So for those of you who are curious about that. Another question that came up during one of the last shots, you remember when we were doing the forward softbox, and then we had a hair light in the back, and I turned one of the lights up 0.3 stops, and then the other light I brought it down 1.3 stops, and that was my ratio. So the total ratio was 1.6. But the question is, why turn one up and one down as opposed to just turning one completely down, 1.6 or whatever? And the answer to that is simple. I just did it that way. It was just in my mind. I was thinking that one needs to be a little more powerful, just a little bit, and this one needs to be a lot less powerful. So in my head, it's easier to figure that out and say, oh, I want that a little more powerful than it currently is, and I want this one a little less powerful than it currently is. And I can think separately on the two flashes. I could have just calculated the whole thing and then moved one down, but that would require more calculation than my slow brain is capable of making. And so I typically try and separate out the lights and think of them as separate things as opposed to one large group. A lot of people, some people think of ratios in ratios. They think, I need a total ratio difference between this light and this light of X. I tend to think of them differently. I tend to think of my exposure in the middle, and then I tend to think of I want something X amount brighter than it is and something else X amount darker than it is. One thing that I failed to talk about on that last shot that I want to go over really quickly, and let's look at the diagram here. Everything was in manual. Obviously the camera was in manual itself, but the flashes were in manual as well. So when I went back to behind the water tower, that was a full power 40 flashes. Bam, 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 bam. I just kept hitting that remote. And remember, that flash was as high as it could be. It was about 20 feet high to try and get it as high as it can so it looked like it was coming straight as opposed to from below. And so I couldn't fire the flash from the flash. I had to flash it from the remote. But the air remote doesn't reach 200 or 300 yards, and so I had to run back a ways close to it and start flashing it. So this is full power manual. When I brought it here to mimic the moon, it was also in full power manual. So I didn't change anything on these. And this one was manual as well, and it was at 7.3. So it wasn't quite full power, but it was still pretty bright, because remember, we were at 100 ISO at f8. So it requires quite a bit of light to overpower 100 ISO at f8. I don't shoot at 100 ISO all that much. Most of the time I'm at ISO 400, and so I can get a lot more light. So if you're in a position where you can't get enough light out of something, for instance, if I needed more light on that water tower, I could have fudged this ISO number up to 200, and then I could have gotten the same 40 flashes would have doubled the amount of light that I would have been getting there. And so just by fudging a number, here or there, if I could have gotten away with f5.6, I could have gotten the same advantage out of it. But I needed f8 because I was shooting down low on Kevin, and I wanted to make sure that his body was in focus and his head was in focus. When you're at 5.6, sometimes those things get out of focus a little too easy. All right, so those are, I think, all the time we have for questions today. Thank you for joining us. It was super fun. We are not going to be having a full-fledged webinar in July. It is summer break. Go out and enjoy yourself. I know many of you are antsy and waiting to get back to the World Cup. I know that Paul is itching to get back to the World Cup. So we will leave you with that. Our next webinar will be on August 27th. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at jaredplatt.com. My Twitter is @JaredPlatt, and Facebook is /Jared Platt. So it's very easy to find me if you need to find me. Here's a quick question that came in, and I just want to answer it because it's important. So when is the Profoto B1 for Nikon systems? When will it be released? The answer is, this is a work in progress. Sign up for the Profoto newsletter and receive updates. That's the answer. So they're working on it. I promise you they're working on it. They want to serve you Nikon people just as much as they want to serve us Canon people. But again, you can use the B1 heads with a Nikon. You just aren't going to be using it in TTL just yet. So those of you who are on Nikon, don't worry about it. You can still use the B1 heads, just a matter of no TTL just yet. And also, those of us on Canon are really excited for high-speed sync coming. So we're all waiting with bated breath on that. So everybody's waiting for something, but in the meantime, we love the heads. Thank you to Profoto for making great equipment like that. I want to thank Tether Tools for their fantastic equipment that we used on all these shoots, all the things that hold up our gear. And then we also want to thank Triple Scoop for their providing of music. Please make sure that you're licensing your music. And thank Kevin Burdick for joining us and being our model. You can license his stuff on Triple Scoop Music as well, or get it on iTunes if you're listening it for personal use. Thank you guys. It's been a pleasure, and we will see you in August.
We'll go down this road together for the ride. We'll go down